Hi there, and welcome to our new podcast. My name is Hannah, and we also have
David.
and we are sitting recording this on May 7th in Copenhagen. Since we are new to podcasting, we thought we'd give you a short introduction about who we are. So, David, would you like to start?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Belgium. I lived there for 17 years, and then I moved to Copenhagen when I was around 18. I just went to boarding school for 1 year and then Copenhagen. But then I went to Technical University of Denmark and studied there. And I consider myself as Danish. My parents are Danish, so I love Denmark and I love being here and I love Copenhagen and I don't see anywhere else to live. So that's where I am now, and now I'm working on Danske Bank as a software engineer. And what about you, Hannah? Where did you grow up and how did you end up here in Copenhagen?
Well, I grew up in a small town outside of Malmö in Sweden, and I moved to Copenhagen right before COVID in 2020. I studied university software engineering as well, same degree as you. And I actually got a job in Copenhagen after graduation. So that's how I started spending more time here. And then after 2 years of commuting from Malmö, I decided to actually move to Copenhagen. And now I'm here and I want to stay forever, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a great city.
It is, So how did you get interested in tech initially, and how did you end up in software engineering?
Well, I always, since I was 10 years old, I started my own website. And at that time, it was not easy having your own website, for sure. But I made a very simple HTML and CSS website. It looked like one of these 90s websites. That was a website for, I love video games at that time. So I made if you know GameSpot, it was called GameSpot, and that's like a website. It's still out there actually that make video game reviews. I copied kind of like how that was, because you could download demos of video games. At that time, you can't do it anymore, I think. But it's like a little tryout where you try a game and then you play a little chapter of it, and it's basically free, and that's why I liked it, because I was a kid and I could play infinite amount of games for free, and I wanted to share that to others. So I made that website and downloaded literally the demos from GameSpot and then put it on my website, and then I put the posters on the school of that, I love that. I love to see others actually use my website. I went in there and they wrote comments also in my website, and that was just so awesome, and I love that. I also love video games, and I know a lot of tech people out there. They started in tech because they love video games, which including me. Lots of World of Warcraft I loved, and Counter-Strike, and I can go on. What about you, Hannah? You're kind of unique. You're a woman. I guess there's more for you now, but I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I was lucky to have my first computer when I was very young. Already, I think I was 4 or something. My dad, he worked with computers, and from his job, he could get like spare parts for that were just like basically left over from all different kinds of computer builds. And then he could use those and build computers for us, his children. So I had a computer from an early age. And then as I started to get older, I saw online that people were making their own personal websites. And I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to do that as well. So then I started learning HTML and CSS a little bit. I can't remember if there was JavaScript as well. Probably not. But I remember it was a Microsoft front page that I started. And then I think if you had Telia as an internet provider, you got like a free web server or something that I could upload it to. And it was available like on the internet. And I thought that was really cool. And after that, I did some WordPress and things like that. And then when it was time to decide what to study for uni, I thought it sounded super cool to be a software engineer, and also very important as more and more things in society are becoming digital. And it's just really cool to have a lot of knowledge about that field when it's such an important part of society today. So what about you, David? How did you end up choosing your degree? Was it after all those game reviews and you wanted to continue?
Well, yeah, like I said, it was I loved technology. I love video games, and I also had a dream of becoming a video game developer. And yeah, I remember we actually we had to do that at school. Like when I was younger, we had to make a presentation on why did we want to go to school, and what do we want to use our school degree on. And I made a big presentation on how I needed it to become a game developer because I love video games. I wanted to work for Blizzard. I wanted to work for Activision. And I still remember when I was a kid, I looked at the Technical University of Denmark to become a software engineer. And then I looked at that because I needed that software engineering degree to work in Blizzard. It was like I wanted to be a game master in World of Warcraft, because a game master you can do whatever you want in the world. And then I later learned that you don't need to be a software engineer to become a game master. But okay, that's yeah, that was too late there. But that's why I started. And then I got older, and I guess I learned that it is kind of difficult becoming a video game developer. It's not, of course, it's not impossible, but it's like pay is not good, and it can be very stressful, and usually, yeah, it's just it wasn't a way for me, at least. And then I decided, okay, I'll just enjoy video game in free time, and then be a software engineer in the more, at least we say, like better opportunities. So yeah, I ended up in the bank, but we'll see if that changes. And yeah, what about you, Hannah? How did you?
Yeah, I think it was, as I said before, I usually am a very intuitive person, so I just take decisions based on my gut feeling, and I thought software engineering sounds super cool. So I just jumped on that. And actually I started in another school, like doing a bachelor's at first. But then I dropped out after about a year because I decided I wanted to do some traveling and, yeah, getting my first job and all this stuff before getting the actual degree. But I learned a lot of programming there, and I thought that was super fun. It was in Java. And so I went out and I traveled, and I worked for a couple of years, and then I went back to school, and then I actually took the full bachelor, master's degree. And I think it felt like a long time. It was 5 years. To me, it felt like a long time. But I think I guess I was a bit older as well when I started studying. And it was a lot of very difficult subjects such as maths, and maybe I hadn't considered that as much before I started. But in hindsight, I'm very glad I took the degree, even though a lot of the stuff that I know today, I had to learn on my own. I didn't learn it from university.
I think that's very common. Like it's a story. It is actually kind of weird, but I think that maybe universities haven't adapted in that way, or I guess I get that idea that you what you learn at uni is you learn how to learn. Mm-hmm. I mean that I agree with that, but the rest is like you're learning a lot of stuff that you actually are not using at all, like out at work, like place. So
yeah, I think that's perhaps a whole different topic, like how you learn to learn and train your analytical thinking, I guess.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna have a new episode coming up later for that, so stay tuned for that.
Perhaps, yeah. What about your first job, David? You've been working for about 7-8 months now. How did you land it?
Yeah, I'm at my 8 months, and feels like I was straight out of uni. I just graduated and I started straight out of that because I was at the internship in Danske Bank during my studies, which I can definitely recommend. It's a good way to get your first job. And I wrote with them and wrote my thesis in cooperation with them, and that instantly landed my job. So it's it's been good, and time flies very fast once you're working. It's actually a little scary. I feel like I'm still new, but I'm already at 8 months. So I guess it's still new, but it doesn't feel like I've been working for 8 months at all. It feels like 2 or maybe 3. But yeah,
lots of things to learn.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I ended up there. What about you? How did you end up in your first job?
I actually had a friend who already worked in the company. She recommended me for an interview, and then I went through the whole interview process and ended up getting offered a job. It was as an IT consultant in Copenhagen. So then I took that, and that's how I started working, actually.
So there were no like coding tests or any, how was the process?
It was not a coding test, but there was a case interview with a smaller like coding task, like write pseudocode on a whiteboard. And then it was, the case where you had to design a system and talk to the interviewer about it. I thought that was a fair way to test a candidate's like knowledge, since it didn't require you to like spend hours coding something. And I just felt like it was a fair process. What about you? You didn't have to do a coding test.
No, well, I talked with Netcompany also, and they wanted me to have a coding test like you, and I think that's a really good way to have a job interview, because I don't know, so many of these companies, they want you to make like a huge code. Take like a working application and whatnot, and it's fine, but it does take a lot of time, especially if you're talking with several job opportunities. It's a lot of work for maybe they say, okay, we're going with someone else, or I don't know. So I'm happy I didn't waste my time with that. And but I talked with Netcompany, and then I talked with Danske Bank on the side, which was the one I wrote with my thesis with and had an internship. And they just wanted me straight. They knew like who I was and the whole thing, so they skipped the whole coding test. But yeah, it was actually really good for me, because that I would talk with Netcompany, because then I could, negotiate my salary, because I said, okay, well, they want to give me this. Can you give me this? And then yeah, sure, they will give me that, because otherwise the pay was actually a little. It wasn't that great, I would say. From if I took the job without negotiation. So yeah, that's how I ended up there.
How did you decide to go for the bank?
Well, I already knew what I was up to. I've been there, right? So and also I haven't heard great things from consultancy. Like from Netcompany, I heard it's a lot of overwork and a lot of it's just I haven't heard good stuff about consultancy, but yeah, we have Hannah at this podcast. Right. There's been a consultancy, so you should know, Hannah, all about this. Maybe we should have another episode talk about that, because that
could be fun to record, actually. I mean, the reason why I became an IT consultant was because I thought it was a good way to like work in a lot of different places and see different setups without having to change your job. So that was kind of my idea when I decided to become an IT consultant, was that, okay, there's a lot of opportunity for learning here in a much faster pace than if I was an employee. But yeah, perhaps a topic for the next episode or another one. Maybe moving on a bit to working life. Like since you're quite new to working, or at least compared to me, what are the differences that you see between studying and working?
Well, I think studying, when you study, at least where I was studying, at the DTU, there's like you had a lot of courses at the same time and a lot of like different stuff at the same time you had to learn and understand. And some people like it and others don't. But that was definitely a difference. Where here, when I work, is you can focus more on one thing. Like I focus a lot on cloud, AWS cloud, and not all kind of other stuff. And I guess it kind of reminds, like at least when I was doing my master's and bachelor, maybe it kind of reminds you of consultancy, because consultancy is like very, very different stuff all the time you have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the, I think, the main difference. Also the squad you work with, at least it's a longer, you work with them for longer periods, where like at the uni, like you do it in semesters, so it's every half year, and then you have a new like group or whatever. But it can change also at work, like depending on how much you change the squad. But yeah, I've been working with the same squad for now like 8 months, so yeah, that wouldn't happen at the uni. Yeah, what do you think, Hannah? What's your experience?
Yes. I mean, I can't remember. I actually had a student job while I was in uni, and there I learned about agile work methodologies like Scrum. So I was a bit prepared for that. Did you also do that during your studies, like work extra?
Work extra, what do you mean?
Like in addition to your studies, like did you work on the side?
On the side, no, actually, I didn't do that. So yeah.
Yeah, but you still felt prepared to like the work.
I mean, it was the first couple of like weeks where I was definitely a little nervous because it was very new to me, and yeah, I mean, I've been in the internship, right? So I had an idea. 2 internships I've been to. So in that way, I had an idea, but it was definitely very new to me. So I was definitely a little like nervous in the start, but you very fast learn, okay, this is how it works, and okay, all right, now I kind of understand like how the whole work environment is. And yeah, it is this very agile thing. We also learned the agile way and worked a little with the agile way, this like when you're at uni, but it's nice to see it like in action, where you have the product owner and yeah, you have like the whole backlog and whatnot, and that's literally that's actually a big thing, yeah, from student life to work life, is that you have this every day. You have to daily stand up and you look at this backlog and say what you're gonna do and what you want to do, etc.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot more broad, actually, what you're doing as a software engineer. It's like, at least for me, my impression is that there's a lot of problems and you need to figure out how to solve them all the time. Whereas in school, it's just like this very nice, constrained problem that's supposed to be solved in a certain way. And
yeah, I mean, I want to add to that. That's one thing I think I really like with work, at least, is that you have a problem and you can just do it however you want, you know, as long at least from my experience, you can just solve it, like, as long as you solved it, you know?
Yeah.
Where at uni, usually they want you to solve it in a certain way. And I tried that with a course we had, where we had like a robot that had to gather like ping pong balls in a court with obstacles. And we solved it in a very creative way, but the teachers didn't like that. So we didn't they weren't happy with it. And I think that was like kind of unfair, because we actually did solve it, but we solved it in a different way than what they wanted like us to solve it. And they, so just want to add to that.
Yeah, it's usually very open, like as long as you, I guess, solve the problem and it's not too inefficient, or there's like some disadvantages to the way that you have solved it.
But I guess it also really depends on what team you are, what workplace you are. Like there's so many factors and variables into it.
For sure. Yeah, I think for me, working as a software engineer, it's important to me that, you know, the solutions that I make, that they are, you know, as efficient and streamlined as possible. Like, that's something I take pride in my work, is that, you know, I do my best and I try to find the best solution with my current knowledge. But I feel like a lot of times, as you're working on a problem, you also learn things that you could use to then, if you were to solve the same problem again, you would probably solve it in a different way.
I think that's also a problem, though, with a lot of times, which I hear again and again, and I also see myself. Though I actually stand in a really good position, but in that regard, but that is that usually you get pushed a lot to finish your work, and then it becomes like not, you could always do a better solution if you had more time, but you don't have that time, and then it ends up being like maybe that you're not that happy with the solution, but hey, it needs to go fast and it works, and that's a very common thing, at least I heard, and
I think you have a good point there, that it needs to be, I guess, valuable to actually make it a good solution as well. And there needs to be some sort of business value to it, so that you don't just sit and optimize something that is not important.
Yeah, over engineering, right?
Yeah, I think we're all prone to that, being engineers. I think let's wrap it up with just what our focuses are today. I mean, for me, I'm starting to get more and more into cloud, and I've just recently landed a new job as cloud engineer. So I'm focusing more and more about cloud technologies and learning infrastructure. And I think I would like to use that in the future to become an architect. What about you? What kind of goals do you have right now?
Yeah, well, I'm actually I'm working a lot with cloud as well in Danske Bank. So I'm also taking the AWS Solution Architect certificate. So Hannah is learning a lot from me. So because it's I have all the knowledge. I'm doing the AWS Cloud quizzes too, and it was made by Amazon, like an RPG game, really good. But at least my focus is like just want to get that certificate, and also Terraform. I'm working a lot with Terraform. And if any of you don't know it, we're going to talk about this a lot more in the future for sure. Well, hopefully we'll see what episodes we do. But yeah, it's basically infrastructure as code. And that's what we're doing. Was that? Did you talk about future career goals also? All right, cool. Yeah, but
do you see yourself working as a software engineer, or would you like to, move to management, or do more become a specialist in the sense of becoming like an architect or something?
I'm actually pretty happy with. I don't like. I'm fine as I am. Like as long as I'm learning, I'm happy. I don't, that's it. Like I don't. Right now I'm not. I don't care too much about the titles and whatnot. But I just care about what I work with and what I learn, and it's valuable what I'm learning for my future. Which I think cloud is very valuable, and it's a good future to have the cloud knowledge. So in that regard, I'm very, very happy with what I'm working with, and that's it. And
Great. So that's a wrap, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And stay tuned for future episodes.
And if you're listening right now, like to the end, I'm very grateful that you enjoyed it. So talk to you.
See you.